What we're trying to do with your pricing is to increase the revenue per dog in your building. That's like the goal, right? And that's, it'll help us raise margins. If you can raise your margins without raising the price too much, sure, you're going to probably have to raise your prices all the time. But if you can increase the amount of money you're getting for each individual customer, and meaning they're buying more of your stuff, they're taking advantage of more of the value you provide. That way, you're only if you want to make more money, if you don't have the upsells and you're able to cross-sell people, then you're stuck with just raising prices. The only way to make more money is by raising your prices. So here, I think it's a big opportunity, and one of the easiest opportunities to increase your revenue is not necessarily looking at new customers or raising prices, is the existing customer base. How do we take better care of them? How do we provide more value to them so that your business will be worth more to them over time? So that's kind of what we're going to discuss. Raising prices can be scary, okay? And because we don't, again, like I said, we don't want to raise prices, but no matter what, your costs continue to go up. So if you want to stay in business, and make a living out of this, which I'm sure that you do and you should, um, we have to kind of figure out a way to do that, and a lot of the time that means your prices have to, reflect the rising costs that you're seeing. And the problem now is like all the expenses have gone up. The wages that you pay your staff have gone up, but the economy is not really great. So what happens is your margins are shrinking, okay? Because you're afraid to raise prices because of the landscape of the economy right now. However, your expenses and everything has been rising, so your margins start to shrink, and that's where you as the owner are starting to feel the pressure on that. And just talking to people at the retreat too, I could see that that's definitely, been the consensus. It's a little tricky right now. And those margins are getting kind of smaller. So we need to try to find some ways to be able to alleviate that, all the time, but even important now in this, crazy time that we're in right now. So the key thing you want to remember is, you've heard me talk about this a lot. It's about the value that you're creating. You're always selling on the value, and you don't want to make it a commodity. Like, I just do something daycare, daycare they could get in a lot of different choices. But if you have a particular value that you provide that's unique to your business, that's something they can't get, uh, elsewhere. So if you're just have, the base stuff you're selling, one thing at daycare, one thing at boarding, whatever, it's a commodity. And it's basically when you have a commodity, it's the lowest price wins. So they're just going to bargain shop, and all things being equal, I'm just going to go for the lowest price thing. So you want to make sure you're positioning yourself on value, and you're providing a value that's way beyond the commodity of boarding or daycare or whatever, the service is, right? And it's very important. And the way we can do that with, increasing, again, we're looking at the average cart value or the revenue per dog, is by doing things like, having add-ons, having different tiers of your services, and then bundling packages and stuff. These are all different ways we can kind of liven things up to make it less just a, simple service, if that makes sense. If you have questions, by the way, guys, just put them in the chat. I'm peeking at them with one eye here so that we can chat about them. Okay. So think about this like four pillars that you can do to increase your revenue per dog. Okay. Number one is memberships. So memberships are great because it's predictable monthly revenue. All right. You don't have that like spikes of up and down. It's very predictable. Memberships are best used. I like to use them as like a top tier service. So like an unlimited daycare membership, is where these work good for grooming memberships, because grooming is something, it's got to be something they use regularly. So rarely do we see boarding memberships because people tend to board a little bit more sporadically. It's not very predictable. So I think memberships are good for predictable things like, this, like a 2 day a week membership for daycare. They're coming 2 days a week, every week for most of the weeks of the year. That makes it very simple. Why I love memberships is number one, because it's predictable. You know how much money you're going to make next month. And it's also, we don't have to keep asking the client for money. So every time their, package runs out, we have to say, hey, your package ran out. Do you want me to charge your card? And they have to think, do I have the money for this? Is this really worth it? Every time you have to ask them to re-up, there's hesitation and you have a chance of them not doing it. So I like memberships because we remove all that and it's automatically billed. They don't have to have this internal conversation whether did their car break down this week and they're a little short on money. Maybe we're going to hold off on this for a little bit. It's just coming out automatically. You know, you don't want to have the problem is, you spent the time selling them initially. You don't want to have to sell to them again and again and again. All right, it's exhausting. So that's where memberships, I think, are really good. Is it makes it a little more seamless. It just comes right out of their bank account. It also helps get regular customers to make it a habit because hey, I'm paying for this every month. I might as well use it. The last thing you want is people not to use it. You guys have all know that you got these people have these packages and they show up once and then they'll show up like 3 weeks once, right before the package ends and stuff. It's very sporadic. Dog doesn't really adjust really well like that. Not a great client because of that. So memberships can really I think help with that. That second tier is having different like tiered pricing. So not just daycare. There's different levels of daycare, not just one boarding suite. You've got different levels of boarding. I think we're going to talk about that in a little second and how you can maybe price those or position those properly. But you know, you want to have a, a couple choices, not too many. All right. A lot of people I see have way too many choices. All right. You've got to limit choices down. I think choicing some choices are nice. And you always want to have a top of the line option, VIP, premium option. Even if only a small percentage of the people take it, that's fine. There are some people that just want the best. They don't even read it. They don't even care about it. They just know, oh, no, I know. I always want the best, top of the line. So you always want to have something for them because that's you don't have to sell that to them. So even though most people will maybe not take that VIP package or the top choice, some people will take it just because it's the top choice. So you want something for just those people to have. All right. So make sure you have, a top tier choice for them. Then we have add-ons. All right. So this is where, I always think of the most popular successful campaign like this was McDonald's. Do you want fries with that? Basically anybody who came in for a burger and they didn't get fries, the person at the front desk just asked them, do you want fries with that? Simple question, no discount. And a ginormous amount of people would take them up on that just because the person asked. So always ask. All right. Always have something else. Okay. You always want to have some sort of an upsell because a lot of times you can make a lot of your margin on the upsell. It's where you make all your profits on the upsell. So, because of everything else, we've kind of calculated what the cost to deliver this service at its base value, and we're kind of comfortable with that. So any add-ons that we can give is just piling on profit, typically. So you definitely want to have some things that people can add on. Most people are probably not going to add it on if they're not prompted, though. So you need to be able to prompt it. You've got to train your front desk people to ask. You want to make sure you have multiple touch points. Your software. This is why I love Goose so much. Goose makes this very easy for upsells within the software. I know personally, if I run something online, if I sell something online and I have what's called an order bump, which is just, it's a, do you want fries with that? So you just purchase this thing. Would you like to add this thing for just this amount? Just by doing that alone, you will raise profits, regardless of what it is. It helps if it's valuable, should be valuable, but just adding it on can increase that average cart value right there. And lastly, it's the peak pricing. Okay. This is high demand pricing. So when there's a lot of people going away for boarding, you're going to raise your prices a little bit to reflect the demand, right? And these four things, you can think of them as levers. You can try to pull these levers to increase your revenue. And you may do one, you may be two, you may do all four of them. But they're just tools you have to kind of help you generate more revenue. All right. So, when you're doing packages or memberships, you're giving a discount. Okay. So, so for a package, we're saying, all right, if you buy one of the packages, you're getting a percent off the daily discount rate, right? And I think we all know this. I think packages have been, just about everyone probably has or is selling packages for daycare. Basically, we're rewarding them for buying more. Okay, this is the same thing with everything. You buy a product, you buy more, you save. You go to Costco, you buy in bulk, you save money. All right. So the more you buy, the more you save. And this is just kind of incentivizing people to become better customers. All right. And we want to incentivize them because you know, we want people to come more often. We want them to use your business as a habit. And we know that the dogs that come more often are going to be better dogs. They're going to be more acclimated. They are going to be easier to manage. And you'll probably and whoever's using the clients that use your services the most are going to be the ones that probably stay the longest. Right. So we want to incentivize that. All right. So this makes it more convenient for the customer and it gets them to make a bigger commitment. Right. The bigger commitment they make, the more they're buying into you and your business, all right? And the less likely they are to disappear, So these are all reasons why we like it. And, with memberships, it becomes predictable, revenue over and over again. And that does create habits, which is what we want to do. We want using your business to become a habit. So that's how we can do that. And there's a lot of different ways you can do packages and memberships. I mean, the most common ones are here, 5, 10, 20 days. What I don't like to do is have a number of memberships and a whole bunch of packages. Again, that's too many options. So either you're going to have, like 5-day package, 10-day package, and an unlimited membership, or you're going to just have packages, or you're just going to have memberships where it's going to be like a 1-day a week membership, 2-day a week membership, 3-day a week membership, and maybe an unlimited. Okay, but if you're doing that, you're not going to have packages as well. I would say you make them choose. You're using one of those interchangeably. The only time you would have both is if you have just a couple packages and just an unlimited membership for daycare. This is we're talking about. So that's kind of how I would do it. Sorry, just checking at the chat. Here we go. Switching to memberships from packages was a huge income boost. Yes. Sorry, I'm just bringing this chat up a little bit more. Let's check it out. That's good to hear. Yes. Yeah, it can be. It takes a little time to get buy-in, but if you switch and you say there's no more packages available, we're switching to memberships. This is why. But if you have both, it becomes a little trickier to get them to get buy-in. But the thing is, that everyone's used to memberships. We have memberships for everything. Your phone, Netflix, everything in the world is memberships now. So people are very used to it and they're comfortable with it. Let me see here. I'm trying to get enrichment and memberships added, but they seem really overwhelming and I get stuck. Do you have any suggestions? The steps you took that were successful. So you start one at a time. Don't try to change and take on a lot of initiatives at the same time. So just focus on one and think about what you want to do and look at your initial pricing strategy and then how you're going to switch over. So if we're doing packages now, if we're going to go to all memberships, great. You want to also give your customers a little heads up. So as of this date, we're switching over to a membership model. So we're going to stop selling packages. Your packages will still be accepted, while they're still good. And again, just talking about the benefits of memberships so that they understand this is going to be a good thing for them. And then just, structure it appropriately. I do have a podcast I did probably a couple years ago at this point on memberships that you can go check out if you just search the podcast under memberships. It might help you out a little bit. Let me know if that helped a little bit, Mikey. I don't know. Let's see here. The challenge with weekly memberships is if you want to reward frequency, but then sporadic boarders want to utilize the membership and cancel it just to get a price reduction. You suggest you require 2 to 3 weeks on a membership before they can cancel to prevent the abuse of the program. Yes, that's a good idea. It can work extremely well, but consider reasonable cancellation terms. Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah, just make sure it's spelled out. You know, this happens in gyms all the time. So they'll say, you have from when you cancel, it doesn't cancel for 30 days. So if I join a gym and then want to cancel, I can't cancel for 30 days. So you're paying for that. So because they know that they need that buffer and zone so people don't take advantage of it. But that's a good point. Yeah, I definitely think that you need to have that baked in and spelled out really appropriately to make sure people don't take advantage of it. Let's see here. We gave everyone a month to buy packages and start making the switch over. You had three tiers, twice a week, three times a week, and unlimited, both weekly and monthly. Yes. Weekly and monthly. I don't know if I would do weekly and monthly. I would probably pick one for just simplicity. Some parents prefer weekly charges. I prefer monthly. They come out to the same price. Um, I would do what's right. You can't make everyone happy. So I think you have to, I would pick one. The most common membership is monthly. Um, that's the one you see everywhere. I don't think I've seen weekly memberships anywhere else. So again, and when they're being charged weekly, they're getting four charges a month. So when they look at their bill, it looks like you're charging them all the time. And psychologically, even though it's the same price as a month, that seems like I'm paying a lot of money. Like all this money's coming out of my account. So I prefer less charges. Again, even though it's the same amount, psychologically, they're only getting charged once instead of being barraged by charges from you. So, um, and yeah, you might pay more with credit card fees, the more charges that go through and stuff. So those are just things to keep to consider. Good thoughts, guys. Thank you. All right. So the other thing is VIP perks, which we'll talk about briefly, is I always think it's better instead of trying to see how much we can discount down, how much can we add more value up? And I love, like on top end memberships and bigger packages, stacking value up that doesn't cost you that much money. So again, we're thinking about the margins. Something like priority booking, early check-in, early checkout. All those things don't really come out of your pocket, but they are, convenient and appealing to the customer. So those are the perks I like to pile on. If you've got plenty of like bathers on staff, I would throw a bath in there a month. Nail trim, stuff like that. Again, if it's not going to cost you any more money, you already have the staff for that. That's just adding value on. So we can make those packages or memberships a little bit more appealing without, really taking, too much money. And not going to cost you anything. It's just adding profit at that point. All right, let's move along here. All right. So when you're thinking about memberships and stuff, you're looking at a discount of anywhere up to 15% or under. Anything like 5%, not really appealing enough for people to actually go on and get the commitment of a monthly membership. So just remember, it's got to make sense to them. If it seems like too little a discount, why get sucked? Why get on the hook for a monthly membership if I don't have to? It's only a little bit of a value. So anything above 15% and you're kind of ruining your margins at that point. So it's got to be, in that sweet spot. I think between 10 and 15 is kind of, where I would kind of try to experiment with. And you can try some different things too, but you want to make sure if you go too low, it doesn't seem valuable to anybody. But if you go too high, you screw your margins up and then it's not profitable and you're just taking money out of your own pocket. So it's a delicate balance that you have to try, but yeah, just remember the draw of the membership again should be the other things you're adding onto it. So it's not just a discount. I don't like just having memberships with just a discount. I like stacking value, like all those things we just talked about, that you can stack the value on to make it more beneficial that they don't get, not just that they're getting a cheaper price per day of daycare or boarding or whatever it is. Okay, I love bundles and creating packages. Okay, we were just talking to a client about that this morning, how I don't like, I'm not a fan of having this big a la carte menu where, okay, you want to add enrichment? We have 10 different options. Like, when people have too many options, they choose nothing. And then I got to kind of look at all of them and decide, or maybe I'll do that one today. All of that is killing, I think, your conversions. So instead, create a bundle, a built-in bundle where, so the client we're talking about today has a puppy bundle, has a senior dog bundle. You could also do a teenage dog bundle or an adolescent dog bundle, or it could be maybe it's the scent hound bundle and it's filled with things that like nose work and stuff like that. So think about because if I have a beagle and I see that they have, I'm trying to think of what I want to do is what kind of enrichment my dog wants to do, and I see that there's a scent hound bundle, that's perfect for me. It's like it was made for my dog. Let's just do that rather than trying to piece a whole bunch together. So you put a whole bunch from together, you name it something that's easily identifiable to that person who has that kind of dog so that they can buy the bundle and they get like three or four enrichments maybe in there or something. But that's kind of how I like to do that. And again, it's best not to have too many options. Three is been proven psychologically. It's probably one of the easiest to do, those three options. And uh, as a pro tip for you, the one you want people to take, put most popular on it or like a star, like um, one of my clients uses Goose. I've talked about this in the podcast too. And Chris over at Goose, she wanted to kind of, um, she's like, I want this pack. I wish more people would take this package. This is really their best value and what we want to grow. And he's like, okay, let's just put most popular over that. They did nothing else. They didn't change anything, no pricing changes. They just put most popular over that option. And I think they got like a 40% increase in sales in that. People want to do what's most popular. They don't know what to do. You tell them what most people do, and they'll probably do it. So look at your website, look at your online booking engine, and put most popular over the one that you want people to take, or the one that actually is the best, the best value for them. And they will usually upgrade themselves with that. But those are some options for you for that. So we talked about now anchor. You can anchor different pricing tiers as well. So typically most people, when given the choice, they'll pick the middle option. Just again, looking at psychology. But the other, you can price things accordingly so you can help people pick the option you want. So let's say it's that, again, you have a luxury option, which is just for people that want top of the line. We're not really trying to sell that. You only can do a couple of those anyway, but those are people who they just self-select that. They're like, I want top of the line, so we're going to go luxury. But let's say you have a standard and a deluxe one, the tendency would be to then space each of these pricings equally from one another. All right. So, but what you can do is just make like in this case the middle option, the deluxe option, just make it more more expensive than the standard. So they could do the standard because they're like, oh, I should probably be, I don't have a lot of money. Let me just do the standard. But then they say, wait, but it's only a little bit more for the deluxe, and I get a whole bunch more stuff. They'll go up, and there's a lot, again, they've done a lot of psychological studies on this. If it's just a little bit higher, they'll take that up. They'll upgrade themselves because they feel like it's really a good value. So you make your standard, in this case, 65. You just make it a little bit more, 85, or you may make that 75, So if that was 75 even instead of 85, um, people would be zooming right over to that one. I don't think anybody would take standard. Okay, they would all upsell to that one. So you can, position your pricing based on the amount you charge for each one, and you can get people to take the one you want. if you just structure your pricing properly. Um, Again, add-ons and upsells are how you're going to make profit. It's typical just profit at this point. Your staff is already on duty. You've got the staff for their own dogs, so anything we get them to add on is just going to be more money in your pocket. I talked about this before too. I think I had one client that just had their front desk call every daycare dog that was in the building. And so the dogs are in daycare. They came for daycare. They're running around playing. So she called all the daycare dogs and said that their groomer had some space available unexpectedly. And if they wanted to, we can groom their dog while they're here at daycare. No discount. Just saying, while you're here at daycare, you're here already. Our groomer has availability. Do you want to do it? And I think three people in 5 minutes took that offer. Um, Upsell. All right. The groomer's there already. The groomer's bored. We had just sitting around. Okay, let's make the offer. Okay. The more offers you make, the more money you will make. So the problem that people aren't taking your offers is you're not giving it enough. You're not giving them the opportunity to, they could say no, and you're not being annoying about it and salesy about it. You're saying, hey, we have this available to you if you want, just like the people that said, do you want fries with that? They're just asking. You could say no. We have it available if you want it. I thought you might like it. If you have particular dogs in the building that would benefit from something you're doing, I would make an upsell personally to them. So if you have a cool scent space that you're doing this week, and there are scent hounds in there that are not taking advantage of it, I would reach out to them and say, hey, I wasn't sure if you're aware of it. We have this scent thing going on this week. Your dog is perfect for this. I think they would love it. If you want, I could add it on for just $10 or whatever. Make the upsell. All right. It's very simple to do. But I think the more offers you make, the more money you will make. And all of these add-ons, again, your staff is there and everything. This is just increasing your profit margin typically. If you don't have to go out and hire more people for this stuff, they're already on site. It's a great way to increase your profits. Again, they have to ask though. All right. If you're waiting for them to say, I want this, I think you're going to be waiting a long time. So you want to make sure your software is offering it. You want to make sure at the time of booking you're offering it. When they're bringing the dog in, I'm going to offer it again if you have something especially if something's timely. And then I might also call them and say, hey, this is going on. I just want to make sure we're about to do this. We can add this on if you want. Again, not being annoying. You're not doing that to every customer every day, but just where it makes sense. If I know this dog would really benefit from this, I'm gonna try to do that. But the problem is we don't train the staff properly. And in 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 your staff's defense, this may not be what they were hired for. They may have been hired to work with the dogs. The problem with pet resorts is you're trying to make one employee wear 50 different hats, okay? And nobody can know how to do everything. So unless they were either trained for sales or we've taught them how to do it, I don't expect them to do it well. So again, that's where software can make it easy. We're having those upsells built in, or if you can train somebody or get somebody who's good at that to do that on a regular basis, I think you're going to see that your per revenue per dog will definitely go up. It all depends on how it's done. And then let's talk about the high seasons. All right, you guys probably already do this. Does everybody charge more for holidays and like summer and like high demand times? Give me a yes or a no in the chat if you are doing this. Do you charge more on July 4th than you do on July 10th? Let me know. Yes, yes, good, good. We increase as occupancy decreases. Michelle says no. Usually 15 to 25%. We do peak rates on a few holidays, day before and or after. Yes, okay. You should all be charging more for weekends, holidays, and all that stuff. Okay? There's a good chance that you have to pay your staff more on Christmas than the other days. Probably. You might have to pay them more to do that. All right. So you need to get more revenue in. You deserve to be paid more. If you are watching my dog while I get to go have a fun July 4th, you get to give up your July 4th so that I can enjoy mine. You deserve to be compensated for that. And again, this is something that is so common in airlines, hotels. We expect it to be more on holidays. Okay, you book Thanksgiving airfare, you expect it to be more than the week before. All right, it's just normal. It's how it is. That's the supply and demand. The higher the demand, the more you can charge. So, and again, especially in a very seasonal business like pet care, you need to take advantage of the revenue during Christmas because January is going to be a drought for boarding. So you need to maximize the revenue that you get during those times. Okay, so especially if you find out you're booked up for these things too. But I got news for you. Everywhere else is probably doing the same thing. So you deserve to get paid more for high demand times. So I think it is, don't apologize for it. You deserve to make money and you deserve to get paid more for times when no one else wants to work. You have to work and watch my dog. All right. So then it's totally logical. And I would definitely start doing that if you're not already doing that. Here is where I love Goose. Okay. And some of the other software will eventually do this because you can do dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing is genius. All right. You don't have to tell people how much it's worth. When I go look for a hotel, they don't say on the hotel website, this is how much a room is. No, because it's different every day of the year. I have to put in my dates first, and then it tells me how much it is. Same thing with airlines. I put in my dates, and then they tell me how much it is for those dates. That's so easy to raise prices and to change prices without the public ever knowing. They never know what your exact price is because it's constantly fluctuating based on demand. So I am a huge fan of that, and I think Goose does it really well because you can also set rules in the back that whenever we're 90% full, prices jump up a little bit because your demand's there. Now you got to hire more people and stuff. It's logical. So I love dynamic pricing. When it's because it's really helps you maximize your revenue and make sure you're properly compensated for the amount of people you're going to have to come. You're booked out, you need more staff than you normally would. So you deserve more money for that. All right. So it really takes the stress off of you of having to worry about raising prices and stuff, because you can do it behind the scenes. Nobody knows about it. And they become so used to your prices fluctuating based on the demand and the time of year. So I don't know. I'm not aware if other softwares do that yet. They better soon, but I know Goose does it. And that's the one thing when the guys at Goose first showed me their software many years ago that I actually paid attention to them was because I saw that and I'm like, that is amazing. And that's going to just add so much money to people that they deserve. So definitely I like dynamic pricing. Anybody here doing dynamic pricing? Let me see, yes or no. Do you currently change your pricing based on demand? Kind of behind the scenes. Let me know a yes or a no, guys. Anybody? Okay. No, no. Okay. Nobody. Nobody's doing dynamic pricing. All right. Think about it, guys. I think you're missing an opportunity. Again, this is very common in all the rest of the hospitality industries. I think it's about time. I always feel like the pet industry is so far behind in some of this stuff. So, and if you have Goose, it's so easy to do. So easy to do behind the scenes. So definitely, I think it's a really good way to maximize the volume that you have coming in and again, give you money you deserve. We're not trying to rip people off. We're trying to compensate you appropriately for what you're doing. Okay? You are working your butts off. You deserve to be compensated. If you go out of business, their dog has to go to your competitor, which is probably going to be a crappier place. So it's your obligation to your customer to make enough money to keep going, to keep this place open. So that's why I feel so strongly about it. All right. So once you're able to see all these things take into effect, you see like an average booking rate of $65, and then all of a sudden we have tiered levels so they can go up to a different level. Maybe they upsell to the deluxe. Then they're adding some enrichment add-ons, and then it's a premium pricing because it's a holiday. You can see what would have been $65 is now worth $125. And again, don't see it as we're not ripping a customer off. We're giving them value. They picked a deluxe one because it has more stuff. They picked enrichment because their dog is getting more value. They picked this. And you're getting compensated appropriately for the demand and the holiday and the stress that takes on your business. So that's where, if without doing all this stuff, you're only making $65 per booking, where here you can make up 125 per booking, same exact thing, same exact service pretty much. You're just getting more value out of it and providing more value. All right, some questions here. Would like to know, but Ginger does not know. I don't have much confidence in Ginger. The two companies that I have confidence in right now in being able to keep up with the technology is Mogo and Goose, and that's only because they got a whole bunch of funding, millions of dollars of funding, both of them from VCs. Um, Ginger, Paul Partner, they don't have the money that's gonna be able to reinvest into the company. So they might do it. It's gonna take them forever, as you see how long it takes Ginger to do anything. So they might, but I'm not so sure. Amy says, love the enrichment package concept. There's a lot more we could do there. We also starting a bigger push to drum up excitement every month. Yes, do different things. That's great. Yearbook, awesome. Very good. Yep, stole that from Michelle, who I think is on this call. She has an awesome yearbook, which I'm blown away by. All these things are really a great way to, again, we're just adding more value and putting more revenue for you. So here's what I want you guys to do. Okay, your last little call to action here. I want you to figure out, create one or improve one of your packages or memberships. Okay, that was like kind of the ways we talked about. If you're not doing add-ons, maybe launch some add-ons, pricing them, maybe bundling them, the packages. Review your tiers. Do you have three options? Can you put a most popular over one? How are you priced between those tiers? Think about that. And then if you're not doing dynamic pricing, I would think about it. Again, you're limited by your software. So if your software doesn't do that, there's not much you could do about that right now. But I think that's something you should definitely think about. And also think about when the last time you did it. If you haven't done a price increase in over a year and a half or so, it might be time, even though this is a tricky market. I still think, you need to keep up with expenses. If you don't raise prices and expenses keep going up, you're going to end up in big trouble. So we want to make sure that there's that balance there.